raising a young child in Illinois, and as a professional who has dedicated her career to gun violence prevention. For nearly a century, machine guns have been tightly regulated and eventually became generally prohibited after the Federal Gun Control Act was enacted. If you've ever seen a gangster movie depicting organized crime in the early 1930s, you're probably familiar with the rapid fire of the so-called Tommy guns of that era. Those fully automatic firearms, which fired continuously with a single pull of the trigger, were terrifying and deadly, driving incidents of mass violence in Chicago and across the country, including the storied St. Valentine's Day Massacre in Chicago in 1929. By 1934, Congress had taken notice and took steps to tightly regulate the market so that civilians could not easily acquire machine guns, before ultimately banning newly manufactured machine guns outright in 1986. For decades, both Illinois and federal law have banned the civilian acquisition of machine guns and parts, like switches, which convert ordinary semi-automatic pistols into fully automatic machine guns. In 2023, the Illinois legislature took another important step to protect our communities from the dangers of machine guns when you passed the Protect Illinois Communities Act, or PICA. That law, which prohibited assault weapons and high-capacity magazines, also included a provision prohibiting all devices that are designed to increase the rate of fire of a firearm. Unfortunately, Glock and a small number of other manufacturers who use the same design have continued to manufacture pistols in a way that makes them especially easy to convert into illegal machine guns at home, with nothing more than common household tools and a tiny conversion device known as a switch. While these switches are illegal to possess under federal and state law, both under our 92-year-old machine gun law and the new provisions of PICA, they can still easily be purchased online from traffickers, often operating overseas for as little as $25 or 3D printed at home. And an illegal market for these switches is burgeoning in our state. In order to enforce Illinois' prohibitions on machine guns and conversion devices, Illinois also needs to regulate the semi-automatic pistols that can be easily converted into machine guns. State law should prohibit future retail sales of these easily convertible pistols, thereby requiring gun makers that make and sell easily convertible pistols to ensure that people cannot so easily evade federal and Illinois laws and easily build and use especially deadly DIY machine guns. That's exactly what this bill would do. It would require Glock and the small number of manufacturers who use the same design to innovate towards safety, if they wish to keep selling those models in the state of Illinois. It would do so without impacting the ability of current owners of convertible pistols to use or carry them if they're legally allowed to do so in Illinois. And just like with PICA, this bill would allow current owners of these firearms to transfer them out of state or to heirs through succession, should they wish to get rid of currently owned firearms in the future. Additionally, it would also not impact in any way sales of convertible pistols to military or law enforcement. Glock has known that its pistols are easy to convert into machine guns for decades, but has not fixed the problem. And while recently Glock introduced new models with some small design changes, it appears that even with these changes, its pistols remain too easy to convert into illegal machine guns. Semi-automatic pistols made by other major manufacturers, including Smith & Wesson, Sig Sauer, and Taurus, cannot as easily be converted into machine guns with switches. Thank you for considering this important legislation. I am grateful both professionally and personally. Your efforts make me thankful to be a professional working in the gun violence prevention policy space who calls Illinois home.
Thank you, Allison. Susan, are you back on? We could try Susan one more time.
Hi.
I think, try again.
Good morning, good afternoon.
That's better. Please proceed. Again, state your name for the record and please proceed.
Okay, great. My name is Susan Erickson, and I'm here today to urge the committee to support HB 4471, a bill to address DIY machine guns in Illinois. I'm a mental health professional and a resident of Lake County for many years, raising my children here and serving my community as a school social worker. Right now in Illinois and across the country, pistols are being converted into fully automatic weapons. using tiny devices called switches. Switches are illegal to own, but are incredibly easy to 3D print or buy. Anyone with $25 or a 3D printer, a screwdriver, or common household tools can convert a pistol into a weapon of war. I support HB 4471 because as a therapist and a parent, I've seen firsthand how gaps in policy can leave children and families without the protection and support they need. This bill represents a practical, compassionate step towards strengthening safety, accountability, and well-being in our communities. Supporting HB 4471 is not just a professional stance for me, it's deeply personal. I believe we have a responsibility to create systems that prioritize prevention, dignity, and the healthy development of every child and family in Illinois. The mission of this legislation is to ensure gun manufacturers do the right thing and configure their guns so they cannot be so easily converted to machine guns. In 2023, the Illinois legislature wisely enacted PICA, which included a ban on a full range of these aftermarket rapid-fire devices. Regulating the switch itself has not proven to be sufficient, and there's more to be done to prevent this kind of harm through exactly this kind of legislative action. This concludes my testimony. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you so much for sticking with us, Susan. Thank you for that testimony. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in support of the bill? Okay. Anyone here who would like to speak in opposition to the bill? Yep. Please come forward, Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you very much. Ed Sullivan. I'm actually representing two clients, Illinois State Rifle Association and Tactical Security Service out of Chicago. First off, to some degree, this is a problem in search of a solution. I realize the solution at hand, but is it going to solve the problem? Right now, we know that the bill says you can't manufacture, you can't retail sale. It still allows people to have the firearms that they own, although they can no longer sell them because nobody will put them through an FFL because it's illegal. The question, though, is, are the people that own these firearms today the ones causing the chaos in the streets of Chicago and across Illinois? They're not. And so you're going to harm law-abiding citizens versus the folks that are actually doing the damage. If 10 years in a federal penitentiary or a Class X felony isn't going to stop somebody today, it's not going to stop them tomorrow. We know that Glock is one of the leading firearms manufacturers in the world, and ironically, we know that this is a firearm for law-abiding minority citizens, is their firearms that they use the most. And so you're going to actually hurt communities that rely on this firearm for its ease of use, its simplicity, to protect themselves. And so those are some of the problems we see. Now, two things that I want to point out. An FFL will have these Glocks in their stock, and they can sell them to certain exempted entities within the bill. But if they don't have contracts to sell to law enforcement, they don't have contracts to sell to other units of local government or the military, how do they get rid of their stock? They can't sell it to anybody else. They can't sell it to someone in another state. And so in essence, do you have a taking issue, in essence? Because you now no longer have a product that you can sell. So that's the first thing that I would like to point out. My other client, Tactical Security Service, understands that there are certain exemptions for security personnel, but only security personnel that are working in a nuclear facility. So we have, under PICA, you actually had security personnel that were exempted under PICA. And so I think if this would actually move forward, looking at an exemption similar to what we did in PICA for security personnel, because as we know, you've heard all of the folks from law enforcement that are opposed to this, this is the firearm of choice. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. With that, we can turn to the committee for questions. Questions? Leader Windhorst?
Thank you, Chair Hirschauer. And I know, or at least there were representatives from law enforcement in the room. Are you aware of what law enforcement, what their opposition is and why they're slipped in opposition?
Kind of, sort of. So the Sheriff's Association is supportive of the bill. Cook County Sheriffs, I stand corrected. Cook County Sheriffs are supportive of the bill. We're having ongoing discussions with law enforcement. Discussions have been productive, have been positive. I do believe that there is a request to provide more clarity in regards to these exemptions for law enforcement. So we're certainly willing to continue to collaborate and work with them on that. Yeah.
Hi there, Jake Wright with GR Consulting, representing Everytown for Gun Safety. Yes, so I noticed today that the Chiefs Association was slipped opposed, so I reached out and talked to them. And so we're working through an issue they have with some of the exemption language. Possibly find some agreement there, but potentially there's other stuff, but it was a good conversation, so we'll continue to work with them. We've talked with other law enforcement agencies about this as well, and have not heard any opposition or filed opposition since.
And just so it's clear to me, with the amendment, we're eliminating any criminal penalties. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was important really to me just as a Black Caucus member too. This is a byproduct of some discussions with some really gun violence advocates, as well as Cook County Public Defender's Office. I believe also the Illinois State Police was included in this particular discussion. But removing that, we just feel confident that we're able to not land on any unintended consequences as it relates to that. We know that this, gun offenses and the consequences have had an adverse impact on Black communities. So that was something that was important to me. And yes, the amendment removes that language. Or I should say, doesn't remove it, removes it from the criminal code.
Right. And it appears the only penalty is to licensed dealers who would sell or transfer one of these firearms. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
And it's a financial penalty and or possible suspension or loss of licensure. So an individual, we would hope to have more people moving into our state, moves into Illinois possessing a convertible pistol. They would not be committing any crime by possessing that pistol.
That's accurate.
Right. But they would not have the ability to dispose of the pistol while they lived in the state. Or how would they, let me back it up and say, how would they dispose of the pistol if they lived in the state?
Allison, if you would answer that.
Yeah, sure. If you look at page 5, lines 5 through 8, you can, just as if you were getting rid of any kind of pistol, sell it to an FFL, and then they sell it through an FFL in another state. That's how legal pistol sales are done, both through federal law and through Illinois state law. So you can transfer it to another purchaser in another state through an FFL.
But that FFL would, in Illinois, would have to agree to take it. They're not obligated to take it. They'd have to agree to take it.
That's how every pistol sales works in Illinois. So yes.
But other pistol sales, if it is transferred to an FFL, if they can then sell it in state, they have maybe more of an incentive to acquire the weapon, whereas with this, they'd have to move it out of state.
Yeah, however the out-of-state buyer is identified, it's not necessarily through the FFL. It could be identified by the person who's selling it, and then the FFL is simply facilitating the transfer of the firearm.
Are there any other states that have this similar legislation?
Yes, California enacted this last year, and there are bills moving through the Connecticut and Maryland legislatures currently, and I believe also New Jersey.
Okay. And the New York leader
Oh, sorry,
had,
New York, not Jersey. Jersey, thank you.
Yeah, the governor put it in her budget efforts.
the California law, is it in effect?
Yes.
Are there any court challenges to that you're aware of?
It is not enjoined. There are court challenges. Interestingly, I don't believe they've been brought by industry members, but the law is fully in effect and enforceable in California.
I don't believe I have any other questions. Thank you.
Oh, I apologize. I had the effectiveness date incorrect in California. It goes into effect 7/1. However, the process by which they're certifying it is already underway. So 7/1, it's fully in effect, but it is not enjoined or blocked.
So we don't yet know how effective the law is in reducing possession of these firearms in the state or sale of these firearms in the state.
The idea is not to necessarily reduce possession, legal possession. The idea is to nudge the industry to make a safer product, essentially. So they will not be able to sell after July in California until they change the design.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leader Windhorst. Leader Davidsmeyer for questions.
So we're looking at taking a gun that's currently, to shoot it, you have to pull the trigger every time to shoot, right? That's the way, the Glock, whatever manufacturer it is.
Semi-automatic, right.
Okay. So that's legal in the state of Illinois and in the majority of the United States, correct? That guy?
Yes. I believe so, yeah.
Whether it's convertible or not, right?
Right.
Currently legal everywhere except for maybe California and a couple other places that may be working on something. Is it currently legal for me to purchase the Switch?
No.
Okay. So at what point does it become illegal? At what point does it become more illegal? Somebody who's got a single fire shotgun, or, I mean, single pull. Every time you pull, it shoots once. Or when the switch becomes involved, right? So you're turning a single shot pistol that's no different than any other gun until the switch comes involved. And the switch is currently illegal. So if at any point you purchase that switch, there's no difference between you having a convertible gun and that switch, or having a non-convertible gun and a convertible gun, because those two are the same thing. It's the switch that makes it automatic, and it's the switch that makes it illegal, either way, right? So you're not taking these things out of the hands. If they're going to do something illegal, they're going to do it anyway, right? I live, I don't know, maybe an hour and 15 minutes from Missouri. If I'm going to buy something illegally, I'm going to buy it there. And you're asking somebody to set up a gun buy in another state and then go through an FFL to get rid of a gun. So if my dad has a convertible gun, he passes away, am I allowed to take that gun? I am? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I just can't sell it.
You can sell it if it's to somebody
I would
out of
have to
state.
arrange a buy with somebody in another state and then go through an FFL.
Right, and that's the current law for PICA too.
I don't want to be a gun runner. So I'm just saying, right, we're not changing anything because it's the switch that makes it quote unquote bad. That's what you're saying here.
The switch, the switches are banned. So with tracking what you're saying there, I think what we're accomplishing or trying to accomplish is to not allow you to be able to use the switch in that manner. If the firearm is manufactured how it is now, you can get the switch, convert it.
But it will still
Right.
be able to be
we're
manufactured that
saying
way
is-
in Indiana and Missouri and anywhere else. They can still sell them there. And if you're going to be using it for crime, you're still going to be able to bring it in the state of Illinois, and they're still going to bring it into the state of Illinois. They're still going to find it somewhere. If they can find those switches, which are illegal nationwide, and I know this is subject matter, I'm just saying,
Oh, no.
it's already illegal, right? So making that single pull, single action gun illegal does nothing to change the effect.
Couple things. I want to bring in, well, Allison, but no, Greg, I'm blanking. It was Lickenbach, Brock. If you're here, Greg, and want to chime in, please do. He's our technical expert here. But I don't know. I mean, I would also say that even Glock themselves, Glock Inc., to my surprise, has also even said, hey, we do want to start to change how we're manufacturing these guns. So they understand the problem as well, just to give you a little bit more context.
And I think Greg can answer, because we're not asking for a big change in the manufacturing. And I think it's something that can be done simply, and it will make this, what Representative Slaughter said, make the switches ineffective. And I think that is the standard we're trying to set. And we hope that this law will help set that standard for the rest of the country. Greg, if you want to take some.
Sure. Thank you, Representative, and thank you for those questions. So this is really a design safety standard issue here. The pistols that can be converted with switches.
Sorry,
use-
Mr. Lickenbrock, can you please state your name and your
Yes,
title for the
I'm
record?
sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Greg Lickenbrock, and I am the Senior Firearms Analyst for Everytown for Gun Safety. Sorry for that. So the issue here is one type of pistol, a Glock style pistol. I'll use that term. It is because Glock trademarked and copyrighted a trigger mechanism that they used in their pistols. Other companies have copied it since then, around 2015 when the patent expired. They are trying to capitalize on that market share of Glock. But it is really that type of pistol that can be converted with a switch because it uses a cruciform trigger bar. 99% of the market, every other gun maker does not use a cruciform trigger bar in their striker-fired pistols. That's why this bill is written in such a targeted way. And all it's asking is for a company to simply make a pistol that either doesn't use a cruciform trigger bar, that is easy to modify with a switch in less than a minute, or shield that trigger bar so that it cannot be modified with common household tools or by hand. That's, I believe, as someone who used to work in the gun industry, a very easy ask. Glock has actually made a model that cannot be converted with switches that it sells to police in Germany. So they've shown that it can be done. They just choose not to.
I think that in order to convert it, you have to you have to be actively pursuing a criminal action, right? To pursue that switch. So you're making it sound like anybody who has a Glock is a future criminal because they have the ability to purchase that switch. And I would say that if people are actively pursuing that switch, they'll be illegal anyway. I don't understand the change.
If I might respond to that, yes, you do need a switch to convert the pistol. You can 3D print that in 20 to 30 minutes. So yes, someone is pursuing an illegal activity to convert the gun. This bill is to address the guns that are so easily converted. It's the other side of the equation.
And by 3D printing, so and you can get 3D print plans online. So why wouldn't the plans to build these things be illegal?
Several states have already worked to address that. They're working on that right now. 3D printing is a new technology. This bill is to work on technology that has been around since the 80s, and Glock itself has allegedly known about this convertibility issue since 1987. It did not become such an issue for the company until around 2016 when a patent for a switch was leaked online and people reverse engineered it. So this has been a problem for about 10 years now, and it could be addressed with simple modifications.
And when did the switch become illegal?
Switch has been illegal since it was invented.
And people are still using them?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Mr. Sullivan.
Just want to add some technical perspective to this. We know that Glock has known about this, as the gentleman stated. They have attempted to solve the problem. So from 5th generation, they went to V, and from there, they went to 6. Each time that they went to solve the problem, people came up with a solution to overtake that and once again have a switch. And so, you know, at what point do they get to sell their firearms and then someone overtakes or succeeds in making a new switch? So I just don't understand where the manufacturer will get out from underneath this law when they're trying to comply and have complied, and then someone comes in and makes a new switch. So technology is in essence defeating the whole purpose of what you're trying to do right now, and that's to force a manufacturer to change their ways. They're trying to change their ways, and they have to change their ways. And so I don't know what this entire legislation is going to do for the future when they do fix it, and then the criminals, and I mean the word criminals, go and defeat what they just did. So it's just another aspect of what this legislation has unintended consequences.
Right, and just as a response to that, I mean, there's nothing that has ever forced Glock Inc. to make these changes until the California law, right? And, you know, even there, we've seen the effort to circumvent. I mean, I guess there's a loophole for the loophole now that they've also created in regards to this new California law. I also want to probably have Greg answer that one too, but this has been a standard question that's been out there.
Thank you, Representative. So yes, Glock did make some changes with its V-Series pistols and Gen 6 pistols, which came out shortly after that California legislation. The changes, though, are minimal. I say that as someone who's inspected the V-Series itself. Basically, with previous models, Glock had a small plastic tab at the rear of the frame that people believe was there to prevent switches. You could remove it with a nail clipper. It's smaller than the charging port on your cell phone. With the V-Series and the Gen 6, they added a little bit of metal to that tab, but it is still very easy to remove. You can remove it with a pair of scissors in less than a minute, I would estimate. That is why just days after the V-Series was introduced, a person had already modified it with a switch. So Glock did not, in my eyes, accomplish the task of either switching the trigger mechanism so that it no longer uses a cruciform trigger bar, as the bill lays out, and they did not effectively shield that trigger bar. They could have done one or two options, and they didn't. They, again, just added a very small impediment that could be removed in less than a minute for someone to add a switch, as we saw people online already do.
Are there any more questions from our committee? Okay, seeing none, I just want to thank you, Chair Slaughter, for working with Everytown and bringing this bill forward. I want to thank the volunteers and the advocates who stand with Everytown Moms Demand Action and Students Demand Action for pushing this bill forward. And I just, while we were sitting here listening, I want to highlight something that Ms. She said, and that we are, nudging the industry to make a safer product. We're nudging them with our policies, and we've seen that all the time. Seat belts that make cars safer. People do not stop speeding. People still speed, but we have seat belts that make our cars safer. This might not be an exact comparison, but it is something that I think we need to see in the gun industry, and I'm grateful, again, Chair Slaughter and Everytown, for you to bring this forward. This is just a subject matter hearing, however, so we will not take a vote on this bill just yet. I'm glad that we were able to give some sunlight to it and have some really good conversations around it, so I thank the committee for your participation today. And with that, there being no further business before the Gun Violence Prevention Committee, we will recess until the call of the chair.
All right, thank you everybody for your patience. The hour of 4 p.m. having come and gone, the House Gaming Committee shall come to order.
Recording in progress.
I have one replacement letter replacing permanent member Representative Jawaharlal Williams with temporary member Michael Crawford. Clerk, please call the roll.
Didich.
Here.
DeLuca. Stevens.
Here.
Cabello.
Here.
Croak. Ford. Gonzalez. Gordon Booth. Lisa Hernandez. Kiker. Rita. Schweizer. Sheen. Spain. Vella. Walsh. Ann Williams. Jawaharlal Williams. Crawford.
Okay, we have only subject matters today, so we do not need a quorum. We have two bills on the agenda, House Bill 4774 and House Bill 4551. I will recognize Representative Crawford to present House Bill 4551. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chair Didich and members of the Gaming Committee for this opportunity. House Bill 4551 amends the Illinois Charitable Games Act to expand the number of charitable game events that a licensed nonprofit organization may conduct annually. This legislation is both timely and necessary as it reflects the economic realities facing Illinois' charitable sector, acknowledges the increasing demand for essential social services, and aligns with modern, widely accepted views on regulated charitable gaming. Simply put, this legislation ensures that the law keeps pace with the needs of communities that it was designed to serve. The Illinois Charitable Games Act is grounded in clear and compelling legislative purpose: to empower nonprofit organizations to fund critical public services. Nonprofit organizations provide essential educational, civic, and social services, and these organizations must have access to lawful, regulated fundraising mechanisms to sustain their missions. The Act created carefully tailored exceptions to the Illinois General Prohibition on Gambling, authorizing limited, regulated games of choice solely for charitable purposes. From its inception, the Act struck a deliberate balance between opportunity and oversight. The Act created a carefully tailored exception to Illinois' the Act has never been static. It has evolved thoughtfully over time to strengthen integrity while preserving access to charitable fundraising. Prior amendments in the early 1990s introduced critical safeguards, licensing requirements for providers and suppliers, event limitations to prevent over-concentration, and restrictions on financial relationships to guard against abuse. These reforms did not weaken charitable gaming, they legitimized it and stabilized it. Today, that act permits regulated games while maintaining strict licensing requirements, those event limitations, taxation and reporting obligations, and mandatory use of proceeds for charitable purposes. While this system is effective, transparent, and accountable, it works, but it's now outdated in one critical respect: its limitations on fundraising capacity. The bill is not theoretical, it's urgent and measurable. Charitable organizations are under an unprecedented pressure. Across Illinois, nonprofits are facing surging demand for food security programs, housing and homelessness services, youth and after-school programming, public health, and community-based care. These are not optional services, they are essential lifelines, particularly in underserved communities. At the same time, traditional funding sources are shrinking and becoming increasingly competitive due to federal budget constraints, state fiscal limitations, oversubscribed grant programs. The result is a widening gap between need and available resources. Without new revenue opportunities, organizations will be forced to scale back services at the exact moment when they are needed the most. Since the original Act's passage, Illinois has significantly expanded, legalized, and regulated gaming in multiple sectors, and public attitudes have evolved accordingly. Charitable gaming, especially low-stakes, well-regulated events, is no longer viewed with skepticism. It's recognized for what it is: a transparent, community-driven fundraising tool that directly benefits the public good. The law should reflect that reality. This legislation offers a targeted, responsible solution. It will increase the number of allowable charitable games events annually, provide organizations with meaningful, flexible fundraising opportunities, and preserve every existing safeguard that ensures accountability and integrity. By allowing additional events, this amendment will generate critical new funding for charitable missions, help stabilize these organizations facing financial shortfalls, and expand access to essential services for Illinois residents. Smaller community-based organizations, particularly those serving historically underserved populations, often rely heavily on fundraising events. Current statutory limits disproportionately constrain these organizations. Expanding allowable events is not just a policy improvement, it's an equity measure that ensures that all communities have the tools to support themselves. This amendment does not weaken the system. It does not expand into unregulated territory. It does not introduce new risk. All existing controls remain firmly in place: licensing, reporting, taxation, and enforcement. The Illinois Charitable Games Act was enacted to support organizations that serve the public good. That mission has not changed, but the environment in which these organizations operate has. Today, charities have been asked to do more with less. Demand is rising, resources are tightening, communities are depending on these organizations in ways that were not fully anticipated when the act was meaningfully updated. This bill is a practical, responsible response. It again expands access to lawful fundraising. It strengthens the capacity for charitable organizations and reinforces Illinois' commitment to supporting vital community services. For these reasons, the General Assembly should act decisively and adopt this legislation. With me are Ken Rock, and Sandra McTurnan to present testimony.
Thank you, Representative. I have Sandra McTurnan from Kenrock Community Center, who slipped for oral testimony as a proponent of the bill. If you'd like to proceed with some brief testimony, please go ahead.
Ian first.
That's Jim.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Thank you. I'm representing Kenrock Community Center in Rockford, Illinois today. For generations, Kenrock has been a place where young and old come together to experience recreation, education, and social service opportunities. It is a place where children feel safe, where families find support, and where individuals come together to give back. Every day inside our walls, we are providing after-school programming for youth, giving children a safe place to go after school where they receive homework help, mentorship, structured activities. We are preparing for our summer recreation program where children spend their days learning, playing, and growing in a positive environment. We operate one of the longest-running youth softball leagues in Illinois, helping your athletes build confidence, discipline, and teamwork while creating lifelong memories. We serve our seniors through luncheons and community gatherings, providing not just meals, but connections, something that is so important. We also offer free tax assistance, helping families keep more of what they earn and reducing financial stress in their lives. And beyond all of that, this building is used daily for community partners, from cheerleading and martial arts to youth athletics, church services, and family events. Kenrock is truly a place where community happens, but the reality is none of this happens without support. Fundraising and charitable gaming are not just a part of what we do, they are essential to everything we do. Programming with charitable games, charitable poker, bingo, raffles, efforts are critical to keeping our doors open and our programming running. These efforts directly support youth programming and staffing, equipment and supplies, facility operation and maintenance, scholarships for families in need, community events, and outreach. When someone comes to play or participates in the raffle, they're doing more than just playing a game. They're investing in a child's future, supporting a family, and helping keep a community resource alive. Every dollar raised goes right back into the building and into the people we serve. The truth is, the need for what we provide is growing. Families rely on us. Children depend on us, and our community is stronger because of KenROC's existence. That's why continued support, whether through any type of fundraising, charitable gaming, charitable poker, donations, or volunteering, is so important. When you support KenROC, you're not just supporting a program, you are supporting a child who needs a safe place to go or a family who needs a little extra help. You're supporting a community that continues to grow stronger together. KenROC has stood the test of time because of fundraisers and charitable gaming, charitable poker, the people who believe in giving back and investing in something bigger than themselves. And with that continued support, we will be here for generations to come. KenROC is a charity that is allowed to have 4 fundraising charitable events per year. And it goes directly to what I've just read to you. If we can do 4 more, it would be very helpful for our community and everything that we do. Thank you for letting me have this time.
Thank you. Please add Leader Gordon Booth to the roll. Please add Representative Vella to the roll. There's a couple witness slips filed for testimony in opposition to the bill. If it's okay with the sponsor, could we bring up the opposition for their testimony?
I have one more witness.
My apologies.
I misspoke. So Jim Kaspudas with Winning Charity Services is with us as well.
And sir, if you could identify yourself and make sure you get a witness slip filed, that would be great. Thank you. Yeah, please proceed.
Hi, I'm Jim Kaspudas. I'm associated with Winning Charity Services and Rockford Charitable Games. We work with 100 different charities, 501c licensed charities, hosting as many as 350 events a year, or 340. 340 events a year we host with the charities. But the locations, going from 12 to 48 for locations would make a big difference, because a lot of charities want to do events in their local community, and they're not able to do so because the facility's already been used 12 times for other groups. So they have to go outside of their community, so they lose some support in that sense. But all in all, 48 a year right now, they allow municipalities to hold 48 a year. So if a municipality like a Park District, Chevy Chase Country Club does 48 a year, Old Orchard Country Club, they do 48 a year, but a local Holiday Inn or a local banquet hall can only do 12 a year. And then again, charities that want to do more, a lot of them would like to do more than 4 events a year. But right now, we're limited to 4 events. The new legislation would allow charities to do as many as 8 events a year, double the events. So, but they really, there's a lot of charities that have sent emails and talked to people on this committee that, they said that they would like to have your support. They really are hoping that that this bill gets out of committee and onto the floor. Any questions, anybody?
Right. Thank you for your testimony. Well, I think if the proponents can take a seat for a moment, we'll invite the opponents to come provide oral testimony. Alex Sobor from the Illinois Gaming Board and Richard Segro from the Illinois Department of Revenue. If you can come up to the table and proceed when you're ready.
Good